This week's guest is actor, comedian, podcaster, and lifelong member of the Groovy Gang, Michael Fenton Stevens. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, how are you, Mark? All right.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Very fine beard, I have to say.
Thank you very much. How have you been coping with lockdown? Have you been able to keep busy and still work?
Well, I have, yeah, but I mean, I've been almost entirely busy doing a podcast, which I've never done before. This is my podcast year. That's what it's turned into. It was going to be something I was going to do alongside my other jobs, but of course, all those other jobs went down the Swanee. The moment that we all got locked, and like so many people, I'm not complaining. I'm in a much more privileged position than most people. I actually went and got tested and then kept myself isolated and went and made a television commercial in the time we've been off. But I also, at the same time, refused to fly to Spain to make a film. So, what privileged position is that to say, nah,
Yeah.
I know everybody else is desperate for work, but nah, I don't want to go to Spain. Not at the moment. Thanks very much.
But that's nice, though, like you say, isn't it? That's great that you can go, no, I'll stay put, thank you. I've got enough. That's
Yeah, well, that's what I mean about privileged.
Yeah.
I mean, you might say I've earned it. I've worked hard at my thing, but that would be a lie. I haven't. I really haven't. No, I really haven't worked hard at my profession at all. I've just sat back and let it happen. I've made no effort at all. I've not trained. I've not practiced. Just when people give me a job, I go, yeah, okay, and I go and learn the lines and I do it. So maybe I could have done better.
Well, you say that, but it's according to the Internet Movie Database, you have 100 acting credits.
Wow, do I?
Yeah.
Weirdly, the other day, and I worked this out, and this is maybe why I can sit here with such a smile on my face, is that I also, while I was locked down waiting to do my commercial, I was in the room with all my diaries, going right back to 1980. They went back to when I first started acting. So they were all lined up on a shelf. And I picked up 1980. I thought, oh no, what was I doing in 1980? It went through it. Oh God, I did that. And oh, there's advert. Yeah. I remember that Guinness advert. Yeah. Oh, we did 3 of those. Yeah. Oh, there we are. There's another one. And I started counting. How many have I done? And I've done over 100 adverts.
Oh, wow.
Over 100 television adverts. That's crazy, isn't it? That's crazy. And so, in fact, when people in the street go, "Hello, mate, you're off the telly, aren't you?" As they do sometimes,
Yeah.
I say, "No, I'm really here." But what they mean is they just look at my face and go, "I know your face from telly." They can't specifically pin it down quite often, unless it's only Fools and Horses or something, which I'm always amazed at because I look like the granddad of the person who played that part. But what they're seeing is a recognition, I think, of the drip feed of hundreds of times that they've seen me in the ad breaks. And now people suddenly turn around and say, I know your voice. And that's for the same reason, because in fact I do, the end line of voiceovers for adverts, Andrex, soft and smooth and lovely. And gets your bum clean. I can do that. I do all that sort of stuff. It's rubbish.
Again, that's a gift, isn't it? You've got such a great voice, and it's not like
it's just abuse, Mark.
It's
abuse. That's what it is. Years and years of abuse.
It's not something you've trained for, just lucky accident.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah. Although, for my podcast the other day, I interviewed David Jason, wow. Sir David Jason, OBE, which is quite a privilege, I have to say. And I have worked with David over the years in different things, some big, like Only Fools, and some small little radio plays and stuff we've done together. We've always got on very well. But it's very interesting. I listened back to the recording and I start off by saying, Sir David Jason, welcome to my Time Capsule, which is the name of the podcast. And by the end, when I actually made him a member of the Groovy Gang and gave him a Groovy Gang badge, I'm talking like that. I went, yeah, Dave, is a badge for you. And he went, what's that? I went, it's a Groovy Gang badge, isn't it? And he went, where'd you get that from? I said, I nicked it. And I said, right, so now you're a member of the Groovy Gang. So my accent had completely slipped, you know, my sort of trained. So the only effort I have made in life is not to talk like this, because that's where I come from. I come from Bermondsey, and all my uncles are all from South London. So, you know, over the years, I've trained myself to sound slightly better. I've listened to I just mimic people, really. I tend to flow into whatever people are doing opposite me. You know, I think it's probably a sort of a mechanism to make people like me, you know, sort of sound like them a bit.
So are you going to have a Midlands accent by the end of this conversation?
I probably will, yeah. I don't know.
You said about interviewing David Jason.
Yeah.
So did that start with Only Fools and Horses, your relationship with him, or was it prior to that?
Strangely enough, it sort of did in the sense of us meeting, but I had been a fan of his well before Only Fools and Horses, and I'm not sure that many people were particularly. He was a successful actor.
Yeah.
You know, he'd done. But I really liked. What I really liked about him was I was a big fan of his on stage. So when I was a young man, I would search him out because actually his way of doing things on stage was what I wanted to do. He was a very busy actor. He was always doing something, and he would never leave a gap in anything. Never leave it. He was not a still actor. And actually, strangely enough, it's taken me many, many years to learn to be still, that actually you don't have to move around a lot. But when I was young, I made up for what I didn't have in talent by being very energetic and very lively. You know, keep moving, and they'll think they're being entertained. You know, and so that's what I did. And I went to see him in a number of things. You know, No Sex Please We're British in the West End. He was in that for 18 months. But the first time we worked together was Only Fools and Horses, and I was very lucky in as much as we shared an agent, and basically the casting by that point in Only Fools and Horses was they used to ring up David's agent and say, "Who have you got who can play this part?" and you know, she rang me up and said, "You want to be in Only Fools and Horses, play a holiday rep?" And I went, "Yeah, great." So I said, "We'll have to cancel that advert." Which is also true. I was supposed to fly to the Maldives, do an advert, and she said, "It's all right, don't worry, I'll cancel it." And so she rang up, and so instead of flying to the Maldives and having a lovely holiday in the Maldives and doing an advert for German Riesen Chews, I seem to remember they were, we sitting on a beach. I threw that aside. I eschewed that joyous experience and went and did Only Fools and Horses instead, which was a very wise thing to do.
Yeah,
I have to say.
And pretended you were abroad.
And we then pretended. Indeed, yeah, we all put fake suntans on, and it was brilliant. It was a really brilliant week's work. It was one of the most joyous things I've ever been involved in. You know, because they were terribly inclusive, and that's not always the case. You'll turn up. The best shows are always inclusive. Excuse me. The best shows are always inclusive. When you turn up and people say, "Hello, hi, welcome. Oh, you're playing so-and-so. Great." And, you know, big stars. Well, Jeffrey Palmer, Judi Dench, I did As Time Goes By. And immediately it was as if you were, "Oh, great to see you. Come in, sit down, have a cup of tea. Right, we're going to do this thing together this week. Great." And they formed you into a company. You felt very at ease. And exactly the same thing with Only Fools and Horses. You know, David said, no, you know, I mean, and everybody goes home. They do their bit, and then they go home. Don't do that. Stay around. We'll have lunch together. You know, watch what's going on. You can contribute. So even though we'd rehearsed our scenes and didn't have anything else to rehearse that day, we stayed there.
Yeah.
You know, me and Gina Bellman, we stayed around and watched them do their stuff. And, you know, and if we had an idea, we suggested it. And in fact, that episode didn't have an ending. When we first did the script, it didn't actually have an ending. John Sullivan said, I can't really think how to finish this episode, but we'll come up with it during the week." And so people were always suggesting things to him. "Hey, what about this? What about?" I think it may have been David actually who suggested, "What about if they do win the lottery?" And he said, "Can't they just win the lottery?" And And John Sullivan said, yeah, but then there'll be millionaires and then it'll be over. He said, yeah, no, but they could win like 1 million pesetas and that's worth about, £5.50. He said, what about that? And John Sullivan took that idea and turned it into what actually happened, which I can't remember because I haven't watched the program for years. No, I do remember, but there we are.
Mm-hmm. You're my first guest to have a #1 record.
I know. I know.
So
I sometimes have to pinch myself and remind myself of that fact. Some time ago I looked. This has changed recently because now the way that the charts work, every week there's a new #1.
Yeah.
It's a very strange thing. But in the days when somebody would go to #1 and stay there for 5-6 weeks, or 14, 15 weeks in some cases. I mean, months and months, somebody would still be #1. Everything I do it because it's shit. That sort of thing. They would be there forever. So between the start of the charts, 1957 or 56, that's when the charts started.
Yeah.
With sheet music, sales of sheet music, but then they started doing sales of records and working out which had sold the most. So between that time and sort of about 2000, when the nature of the charts changed, when Top of the Pops finished, basically, there'd been fewer than 1,000 people who'd had a #1 in this country. That's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's over 40 years and less than 1,000 people. So you're looking at, all right, the Beatles had a few, and Bowie didn't have many.
No.
Elvis Presley, some. Cliff Richard, too many. It's that sort of world, and so suddenly you go, and me, fucking hell, that's amazing. I'm on that list. All right, it was for the chicken song. It's not it's not really going to be played as the song and now the bride and the groom will dance to their favorite song. Hold a chicken. It's not going to happen. Well, I don't know. It should happen. But there we are. Maybe if I get married again, maybe I can get rid of my wife. I've been trying for years. She won't take, my first wife, I'm going to do a panto joke now. Yeah, my first wife died. She died from eating poison mushrooms. It's very sad. And my second wife, she died from eating poison mushrooms. And my third wife, she died from a blow to the head. Well, she wouldn't eat the mushrooms. There's a panto joke for you. Hey, boom. How sexist can you be in the middle of pantos? It's crazy world.
Yeah.
It's like you jump back to the 1950s. It's talking about my wife. Anyway, there we are. That was a little diversion, but it's an extraordinary thing to have been #1. Yeah. And I didn't even know it. I mean, we're talking about going to #1 at a time when nobody had mobile phones. I was in Spain on holiday. There's a place that people used to visit. Remember when people used to go to Spain?
Yeah.
Happy days. There's lots of lovely hotels, all empty, and all those apartments. Yeah, never mind. One day. Now's the time to buy. Anyway, I was in Spain on holiday, and the only way you communicated with people in those days was if you went to a phone booth and either reversed the charges or put lots of coins in, foreign pesetas into the thing, and then you rang somebody. Why would you do that on holiday? Yeah. I'll be home in 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. I'll speak to you then.
Send a postcard that will get there after you get back.
Usually, yes. Because you could only remember to do it on the last day. Oh, shit, I hadn't sent a postcard. I know the post is terrible, Mum. Yeah, it's terrible. Spain is useless. Useless, lazy, good for nothings. She loved that sort of thing. Anyway, I get back from Spain and I've got a very modern thing called an answer phone in case I've missed any work or anything. And it was just rammed, like 100 calls of people going, hey, whoa, brilliant, congratulations. And I thought, have I become a father again? This is crazy. And I rang up Philip Pope, who's my old buddy, and we've done loads of things together over the years, who wrote the chicken song and he'd left a message saying, isn't it fantastic? Great, I'll see you soon. I said, Philip, what's everybody talking about? And he said, the chicken song. I said, the what? He said, the chicken song. I went, oh, right, that's that song we recorded for Spitting Image, isn't it? And he went, yeah, they released it. It's number one. I went, oh, yeah, I remember they were going to release it, but I didn't know when. I had no idea. And in the time that I'd been on holiday, 2 weeks, it had gone to number one. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I went to W.H. Smith, to the record department. God, it all sounds like another world, all this. These people saying, what's he talking about?
Yeah.
W.H. Smith record department?
You didn't just stream it on your phone?
It is, I know. Yeah. So I went to the Spotify shop and I downloaded. No, I said to the woman, have you got a song called The Chicken Song? And she went, yeah. Number one, look, and pointed to, they used to have them lined up, yeah. Number one, The Chicken Song. I went, right. Yeah, can I have a copy of that? She said, you want a 12-inch or a 7-inch? And I went, I'll have one of each. She went, all right then. What's it for? Your kids? I said, no, it's for me. Actually, that's me singing it. And she looked at me and went, right. Then you go, yeah, I know. I sound like a twit. Some bloke just come into the shop.
I had a very similar experience last weekend. I was in a second-hand record shop in Wolverhampton, flicking through the soundtrack and sort of TV vinyl on the off chance that they might have a copy. Because if I can, I'd like to have this record here as something sort of applicable.
Yeah.
And I said to the guy, oh, have you and it sounds weird. I says, but you haven't got a copy of the Chicken Song, the Spitting Image thing? And he said, says, no, I had it when I was a kid, he says, but I haven't seen it in years. And I did I went, oh, well, because next week I'm interviewing the chap who sang it. And he went, oh, okay. No, we haven't got it.
Yep, that's most people look at you and just think, oh, shut up. Yeah, sure. Of course you are.
History's repeated itself in that way.
Yeah, there it is. I think that may be the reaction of everybody when you even mention the Chicken Song. They become completely disinterested. But it sold a hell of a lot of copies. I mean, I can claim that my number one sold probably 10 times as much as most of the number ones that are around at the moment. Now you need, I don't know, 20, 30,000 copies to be downloaded. Yeah. And that's it, number one. But in the olden days, we sold over, I think, nearly 1 million copies, which is a lot of records, isn't it? And I very sensibly took a percentage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's another check that you get every so often, is it?
Yes. Every so often.
But they're Heebie-Jeebies, which is obviously your group with Angus and Philip Pope.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a Bee Gees sort of knockoff, though, was it?
No. When it started off, that's what it was, a Bee Gees takeoff that we did in this review. And then they said, do you want to do record it as a single? We said, oh. And they said, actually, do you want to do an album? And we said, well, an album of Bee Gees parodies. And they went, no, can you do anyone else? And fortunately, Philip Pope has the most amazingly adaptable voice and is an incredibly good impressionist when it comes to singing like people. And he went, yeah, we can do loads of people. And they went, okay, great. Sign under the words life away. And so off we went. And so we did all sorts of whatever song we could come up with, really, whatever we wrote that we thought was funny. So we did the Police and the Jackson 5 and the Eagles and ABBA and Paul McCartney and Wings. Very cruel line in that. I have got my wife here with me. She may be singing in a different key. Very cruel. But he was lovely. He sent us a telegram, Paul McCartney. So he'd heard it. He sent us a telegram saying, why can't you leave us poor sharecrop farmers alone?
What about the Bee Gees? Did you ever hear anything from the Bee Gees?
The Bee Gees hated it.
Yeah, I was going to say they're known for their sense of
They were the ones who just well, I didn't. Not all of them. Morris. We did strangely. I think Philip met Morris Gibb at a party once, and Morris Gibb said to him, "Yeah, I know who you are." And he had a slight Mancunian accent, strangely enough. They kept their Mancunian accent right through their life, the Bee Gees. And he said, "I know who you are." And Phil said, "Yeah, sorry." He went, "Nah, it's funny."
Okay.
And so it was nice. But his other two brothers didn't think it was funny.
And then we started talking about your podcasts at the beginning, but for anyone who hasn't heard it, it's a really lovely idea for a podcast. Do you want to tell people what it is?
It's a very simple idea. My son badgered me about doing a podcast for a long time. He said, "Come on, for goodness sake, you've worked with all sorts of people. Just chat to them." And I said, people don't want to hear people just chatting. And actually, since I've got involved in podcasts, I realized there are a lot of programs where people just chat, and you sort of go, "Oh, okay, I wanted something to hang it on, really." So I said, I'd rather it was something like Desert Island Discs or Room 101 or that sort of thing. So it's sort of a combination of those things, but very personal. It's not music. You basically choose 5 things. So 5 anythings, really. They can be really tiny little unimportant things to everyone else, like a piece of cloth from when you were a child, the thing that you used to go to sleep with, that you find that now is either in the bottom of a cupboard somewhere or you've lost it. But you'd quite like to have that thing again. You'd quite like to have it and feel the comfort of it and rub it next to your face and smell it and go to sleep. That's a very happy memory of doing those. I'm making this up, but that sort of thing, I didn't have a cloth, but those things, the first pair of, if you're ever of a certain age, the first pair of platform boots you bought. You know what I mean? Let's choose them. And then what it does is you then talk about the thing and why the person treasures it. And it generally then opens up a whole area of their life to talk about that you wouldn't normally talk about it. So they choose 4 things like that, 4 things that they cherish or that they treasure and would either, like to protect or would like to have again. So it can be a person, it can be a smell, anything, a view, a gig, but they also choose one thing that when they look back at their life, they go, oh no, that was awful. So either an embarrassing moment or an unjust moment, something that was unfair, but basically something they wish had not happened or they didn't have, or they hadn't made that mistake.
Yeah.
We talk about that as well. And that's it. And it generally will lead to, quite a long and extraordinary conversation.
Yeah.
Either very funny. I mean, sometimes very funny. I just sit and laugh. People telling me brilliantly funny stories. And other times very sad, really moving.
Yeah.
Because you get into an area that talking about something. I've done interviews with people that haven't gone out yet, a number, because you're always sort of slightly ahead of the game, as it were. And somebody the other day told me about going through the process of their son having cancer.
Oh God.
And being treated, and the 2 years of the hell of that, and what it did to them. I mean, and sometimes the stories that they told about it are very funny. The losing it in a supermarket because someone says, "Excuse me, I think I was," just then go, "Yes, your son hasn't got cancer though, has he?" Which you can all imagine doing, but then also the terrible, that terrible feeling. I mean, I can't imagine how people get. I mean, like everything, I suppose that's how you get through wars. That's how you get through anything. Is that you just have to.
Yeah.
You have to, or you just stop. There's the other option. Sadly, is you just go, no, I can't take it. And you hope that people don't get to that point, but you can understand it when they do. I think sometimes. Yeah. But anyway, it's a really interesting thing, and I basically trolled back through my entire career and bent the arms of lots of people and said, "Come on my podcast." But they've all enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it enormously, and it's really filled my year.
Yeah.
It meant that I've had a lovely time just talking to friends. Occasionally, when we were allowed to, we would actually meet up. But generally, in this way, we would talk across the internet, and it's strange, isn't it? I think if we'd all been asked to do this a year ago, if we'd had this conversation a year ago, we would never have been as relaxed and as easygoing with each other. And, this is very much almost as if we're in the same room with each
Yeah,
other. Now, we've developed that ability.
definitely. I started off the year. My plan at the beginning of the year was to do 12 interviews, one a month, that I
Yep.
was really proud of, and I
Hmm.
would go and meet the person and set up
Yeah.
2 or 3 cameras and have my friend Rob, who's a professional sound recordist, and we'd do it
Yeah.
all properly. So I did that in January and February, and then when it like March happened, I was just like, oh, okay, well that's that ruined then.
Yep.
I can't do any more of these for the rest of the year because who's going to want to meet anyone, let alone meet a stranger. But yeah, it was. So there was a couple of months of like, ugh. But once I
Yeah.
got into the hang of doing these interviews over the internet, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is just the same. I don't
Yeah.
have the same control over the quality that I do setting up cameras and recording in person, but
Mm.
it's the conversation is still just
It's
as,
still the same
yeah,
as valid, isn't it? It's just as
yeah,
valid. And it's interesting that sometimes I think because of this situation, people are even more forthcoming, you know, than they would be in a room. People can be guarded,
yes,
I mean, I've done interviews with people where I was in the room and you can feel them start to talk to you and then suddenly go, oh, no, no, you see, now I'm going down a path here where I know where I'm going to go and I don't want to say it, you know.
yeah,
Whereas in this situation, I'm completely unguarded in these situations anyway. I feel that this is me talking, and this is what I think. And if people don't agree with it, that's fine.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not looking for an argument, really. I'm just saying that's what I think. Take it or leave it, ignore it. This is what I've done. This is what I've enjoyed. There you are.
yeah,
Turn if you don't if I'm boring, turn me off. There's lots of other things to do in life. You know, so it's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. I'm not saying to people, no, hang on a minute, I haven't finished yet.
Come back.
Come back. There should be a thing, shouldn't there? Where if somebody turns off, if somebody goes, yeah, I've had enough of this podcast, and they press a button, it stops. You should have a little message saying, hang on a minute, we've got another 20 minutes. Very, very interesting things are said. It's where I give you my PIN number and my account. You idiot.
There's a David Jason anecdote coming up you don't want to miss.
Oh,
Get
this
back
is the
onto
one.
that.
The one you didn't know.
I'll leave you with the question that I leave everyone with. So
Hmm.
I'll put it your way. But just to set you up, some of the answers we've had so far are Ricky Gervais, Russell Brand, Robert Smith, and
Yeah.
Steve Guttenberg from Cocoon.
Wow.
So the question is, who is the
Who
most
was best in bed? It's definitely Steve Guttenberg. I've had all of them, and Steve is the man. God, he's a god. He's a sex god.
The question is, it's not quite as interesting as that.
Oh, okay.
Who is the most famous person that you've sent a text message to?
Oh, uh, oh God, that's big weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I would imagine probably Rowan Atkinson, but that's a bit dull, isn't it? I mean,
it's fine.
there's been lots of people that I'm glad I was
Yeah.
able to do it. Rick Mail.
Oh wow.
I wish I could still send him a text message. What a great man.
Yeah.
Mad,
Oh yeah.
brilliant,
In the
brilliant.
best possible way.
Dangerous, but just lovely, genuine, heartfelt, full of life. So sad he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just the other day, amazing. What an amazing world we live in. I made contact through the world of Twitter because the great Michael McKean, who you may not know who he is,
Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap. You see, Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the greatest comedy movie of all time. And there he is. And he put on Twitter, anybody know where I can get a copy of the Heebie-Jeebies album? I had
No
one. I
way.
lost it. Yeah, way. I know. And somebody went, I think it was Mitch Benn, actually, who was also, a great song parodist. he forwarded it to me and said, "Are your ears burning?" And I went, "Whoa!" And I went, "Yeah, I know where you can get one. I'll send you one if you want one." And he wrote back saying, "Yeah, that'd be great, mate." I said, "Well, follow me then." I go, "I am from the heebie-jeebies, so I'll sign it for you." And he then followed me on Twitter, and then he said, "Look, here's my number. Text me with details." And so I've got his number, and I texted him to say, "Okay, hi, fine. Look, I'll just send it to your address. You mind giving me your address? Or, your agent, I don't mind." And he just texted back saying, "Yeah, cool. When it arrives, I'll, put your address in it. I'll send you something back." So I've sent it to him, and I'm waiting to see.
Wow.
But of course, I did also then say, "Do you want to be on my podcast?" So we're waiting to hear. Hopefully, I've bribed him enough, because and to me, those things are really thrilling when you have no reason why you should ever come across this person,
Yes.
and you have enormous admiration for them, their skills, and it's a weird world, isn't it? When you suddenly, I suppose it's like people do that all the time. To me,
Yeah.
I'm in a shop or something, and somebody goes, "Bloody hell! Oh my God, bloody hell! You're in Only Fools and he's in Only Fools and Horses." And I go, "Well, yeah, long time ago. It was only one episode." And what are you doing here? I live around the corner. This is my local shop. "Oh my God! Well, I've got to live somewhere."
Yeah.
So, in fact, the world is full of those things where of course you're going to see people. It's not as extraordinary as people make out. But just suddenly being in touch with Michael McKean.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good one. Michael McKean.
So we go Michael McKean, Rowan Atkinson, and Rick Mayall. I think you're just showing off, though.
I'm just showing off. I haven't even told you the famous ones I've done.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time, Michael.
It's lovely to talk to you. And I look forward to seeing you in the flesh one day.
Yes, definitely.
Up in lovely Wolverhampton.
The world is very, very large, and butter is better than marge, and love is better than hate. The world is very, very big, and bacon comes from a pig.
You have to polish yourself, Mark.